Hello, welcome to Soul Talk with Dr. Stephanie and Jessica. This is a space where we hold honest conversations that most of us never get to have about healing, alignment, and that quiet wisdom that lives within all of us. I am Dr. Stephanie Johnson. I am a mind body coach, medical intuitive, doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and also the creator of the Soul Wise Method. I'm joined here today with my co-host, Jessica Hinderer, and she is an entrepreneur and Reiki master, as well as a healer. And each week we explore the stories, beliefs, patterns shaping your lives, our lives, so we can reconnect to your truth, our truth, live from a place of deeper clarity, courage, soul, and more importantly, from alignment. So, we are so excited to be here today because this is our very first episode. And there was never any question, any doubt where we were going to start. And we are going to start with words or spells. What's the language that sets us up for life? So, we're going to dive into that today. And first, though, I'm going to invite my lovely co host, Jessica, just to share a really deeply personal story about how our words can either lift us up or bring us down.
That's right. Thank you, Stephanie. Oh, it's such an honor to be here chatting in this beautiful, truthful, authentic place. Yes. So as you mentioned, words being spells, languages, the way that our current understanding, that's how we communicate. It is very limited, unfortunately, but we do the best we can. And as we are babies and then we are taught by our parents and all the things, we develop individually as well as being part of a group. And so my personal story, when we were brainstorming, this project was this, it was a nickname that I remembered and that I could think of that had an impact on my life. My name being Jessica, of course, my growing up as a youngin, I was known as Jessica Messica.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, I love a good rhyme. Like I love rhyming. I love making little poems and things like that. So I get it. I get why, right? But looking back at it as an adult and somebody that's been being aware of all aspects of my life as much as I can be, I recognized that if I trace back to my childhood, to little Jessica, it was very much this spell that was cast upon me. Jessica Messica. She always gets in trouble and she always makes a mess. And, this is this little child trying to be their, authentic self and not knowing about societal rules or expectations of behavior. And those, even though that we don't use the word messica in regular life, obviously,
Yeah.
but when you bring them together and the word mess being in there, that definitely had an influence in my life up until, gosh, really honestly, it hasn't been too long, maybe like since the last 10 years of me just being like, why do I even repeat that story to people? I mean, the more I repeat it, the more it becomes real and true. So it was like the first step of awareness, of pulling back and saying, is that actually true for me? And I had to make that conscious decision to be like, no, I actually have the choice on whether I share that story ever again. Right. So, you're welcome because I'm sharing it. But for the most part, like I don't bring that up anymore because that's not who I am. I am an incredibly creative, a little bit scattered, sometimes messy, disorganized and all the things. Those are all different aspects that I have, and that's okay. That doesn't
And I
make me
think
a
it's
mess.
an important piece to realize that once you had that awareness,
Mhm.
how much of an impact that made on you, and then how you can shift that languaging, but it really layers in into our adulthood. And that's where it's this reminder of make sure the words that you pick, the words you share, even if you think that they're funny, that they can have a lasting impression and they can really influence someone and how they show up in the world. And that reminds me of my own experience, which is slightly different in terms of you have a specific word. And mine was about walking into an allergist office. And this was just something that not that long ago, but it really impacted me in the way that it was spoken and how it could have had a really detrimental effect. So, this allergist was the first one that I'd visited in over 20 years. So we're chatting. I'm filling him in on my health history. And within a few minutes, he asks me this question. And it actually was the moment I started to answer his question, he cut me off. Not
Mm.
once, not twice, but like every single time. I would go to answer it, and I was in the middle of expressing myself, and he would just cut me off like he already knew. It was so frustrating. So, when I mentioned that I had celiac disease, that had been confirmed by multiple biopsies, I've had 40 years of symptoms, I was diagnosed over 35 years ago, he wanted to order a blood test to confirm it. I explained the type of celiac disease I have does not show up on blood tests, and it was a waste of time. He's like, I'm the expert here, I'm the specialist, let me do my job. I was like, wait a minute, like, I'm telling you I have this. The blood test isn't going to say anything. And in that moment, it was as if my 4 decades of living this and my body speaking and showing up, that I wasn't fluent in my body, in my language, and it wasn't enough for him. And then he looked at me cold and dismissive, and he's like, you're 56 years old. How long has this been going on? Like, why haven't you taken better care of yourself? I
Oh,
That really
girl,
hit
like,
me because I've done nothing but care for myself. And so that is such I don't want to say pervasive, but it's like just coming right back, like, what have you done for yourself? Why haven't you taken care of yourself? And if I had allowed him to, I'm not saying get away with saying that or taken what he said to heart, which immediately I did. I I cut the appointment short. I was like, this is not the right allergist for me. I walked out of the office. I went to my car and just bawled my eyes out. And I just had my own little pity party for a moment because it affected me. His words deeply affected me. And that's an example of words are spells. And I had to work back and say, I am not accepting this as truth. My experience has shown me that's not, his statement is not true, that I have taken care of myself. Yeah, it's been going on for a long time, and I've been working for answers for a long time. And I think, again, it's really important to, just trust your own voice. And so I want to encourage you, like right now, think about a specific moment that you've had when there was a word or a phrase or that someone said, and it just landed a little bit differently than it was intended to. Maybe it was from your mom, maybe it was similar to Jessica, it was a nickname, or perhaps it was something, as recent as what I just experienced was someone saying that and me getting hit over, right? So it could be a label a teacher gave you, it could be something, like I said, a parent said, it could be a diagnosis. But whatever it is, it's something that helps to shape who you have seen yourself as or who your identity has become. So
right.
look at that and just take a moment. Just think about that. And then we're going to talk about some other things that can pop up. And then at the end of this first episode, we're going to give you hopefully some practical ideas about how you can rework some of that early messaging and words as spells.
That's exactly it. You know, there's it's like we're not, I mean, the whole dismissiveness and not believing the patient in the current medical system. I mean, that's a whole situation in itself. And obviously, anybody listening can definitely, you know, have their own personal memory that pops up during that time, right? I feel like, first of all, I want to congratulate you for cutting that appointment short. I don't know at that time if I would have the courage to do that. So like badass movement right there. Like great choice, you know? And I also feel that the practical advice or the things that we're going to discuss here is really important to keep in mind that we are not medical doctors, right? So we are sharing from our own personal perspectives and the things that have worked and have not worked and our personal experience of those. And with that story that you shared, it's, I can only imagine the amount of doubt, right?
Mhm.
Doubt, fear, your inner monologue going with also the words that you are then saying. And then maybe you're even adopting, like, you're right, maybe I don't know anything. I mean, this experience sounds like incredibly disempowering for you because because the doctor said, I'm the expert. And then in your moment, that's like your choice point, really, to say, God, you're right. Maybe I don't know. Maybe he's going to find something that I haven't seen. And myself with different health things that I've come up with, I can say I didn't go down that path. You know, I didn't have the skills. I didn't have the tools to empower myself and say, actually, no, I need you to believe me in the way. I mean, you didn't necessarily say you need to believe me. You left the situation, right?
Well, and
Which
I
is
think one of the things
absolutely.
I attempted to clarify for him is that, hey,
Yeah.
you're my sixth allergist that I've gone to, and I've
Yeah.
already had all these tests done previously that confirms this. I'm looking for a new approach. And he
Right.
wasn't in partnership. And I think what both
Mm,
of these moments have in common, and what we're going to explore today, is that words, they're not just words. They
no.
are instructions and they are spells. And these instructions and spells are pieces that can define us. And we have to really look at where they flow. So in Chinese medicine, and I've practiced for over 2 decades, the body and the mind, they're not separate and they never were. And so the words that we speak to ourselves, that we hear others say to ourselves, that we use about our body, about our mind, about our life, about what's possible, they don't just float in our heads, right? They land. They land in our body, they land in our energetic field, they land in the tissues, they alter our chemistry. So,
Mhm.
in one moment, you could be positive, yes, I'm looking for support here. And the next, you're just totally, your legs are taken out from underneath of you. And that alters our chemistry. It shapes our nervous system and it changes it.
And it's that's an excellent point, like the altering of the body systems, because not only is it the nervous system, right? But then it's also the lymphatic system. There's so many systems that go on within our bodies that we're not even aware of, that are just doing what they do, but they are reacting versus responding to the external inputs. And most of us never, and that's the crazy thing, is that actually probably all of us in any part of this world, we never got to choose our vocabulary because we came in with no vocabulary, right? So it was handed to us by our families, by our culture, society, school, before we even had like the mental, like the brain development to be able to make those choices, the critical faculty to even question it, right? And a spell is something that can be cast upon you way before you even knew what a spell was, or even knew that it was happening, or even know how to protect yourself from it. That's a big point to know, right? To make, I should say. Mm-hmm.
And, language doesn't just describe our reality, it builds the whole container of a reality that we live inside of. And that's
Mm-hmm.
defined by us from our childhood, by our families, right? And that culture and our friends and our neighbors. What surrounds us creates our understanding of what is reality is. And that's also the same thing with the words we choose to use. And like the the cliche phrases too, that come through, and those in themselves are spells. And one of the biggest, I guess, one word that has always kind of, I don't want to say stumped me, however, it's created some curiosity in me, is the word belief. Because when you look at the word belief, it's like, oh, we all have beliefs. What do you believe? What do you believe? I believe this. Well, I don't believe that. And yet, within that word, if you break it down and you spell it out right in the very center, it says LIE, lie. What if all of our beliefs are lies? What if all of them are untruths? And it's kind of like a mind blown, right? Because so many of us base our lives on a belief, that's our belief structure. And we're asked, what do you believe in? And yet, if we take that word lie, is it all just a lie? Like, what is it? Like, what is the reality we create when we speak our words? What reality are we creating that's truth and that lives in integrity within us? And I guess, it's just something that, I don't know. So to me, it's like to believe is it's something to lie about, right? It's to embody it. It's to walk through your days as if, it was simply true, even when it was never like yours to begin with. And so many people, and I think we see it in all over the world right now, is that they were brought up with this belief system, and they reach a certain point in their life to say, wait a minute, that's not I don't agree with that anymore. I don't believe
Right.
that anymore. So I also look at it as we can move through life with a belief and hopefully reach a point where we expand ourselves and engage with other perspectives to be able to shift that belief into a more opening, loving, and joyful perspective that is more encompassing of all of us.
And yeah, so that's a big one. I guess we're coming out with the heavy hitters.
Let's go.
Because I'm trying to think too. I mean, we could take this in so many different directions. We do have a frame that we're going to work from, but what popped in my head is like, well, then how? Like, first of all, I think if you are to recognize that connection, then it's probably time to look at synonyms for belief, right? Because
Right.
because we do believe in things and things, concepts, people, ideas, and those are important, right? So it's not taking
Absolutely.
away the validity of those different things. It's just a matter of how are we going to frame it. And from an energetic standpoint, well, beliefs are thoughts, right? And from my understanding is thoughts and emotions are simply objects of our consciousness, right? So I don't, it's one of those. Yeah, we need to come back to the belief, maybe in other episodes, because I would like to pick apart, that situation and say, is there a better word, or is it just a matter of getting it and saying, okay, fine. If everything is a lie, then, we have to take a few of them on in order to be functioning people in this society.
I agree, right? And maybe
Yes.
instead of beliefs, there are these thoughts or there are values, right?
Yeah.
One of the things,
Hmm.
though, that I do see, and I see this every day with the clients that I treat, it's like me sitting with the woman who has been carrying the same diagnosis for the past 10 years. And that diagnosis, though, becomes the label because she has the belief in the diagnosis. And now she has reorganized her entire identity around that diagnosis, but she's no longer, say, Annie or Susan. And that label, that belief and label now becomes her story. And that story then gets stuck in the body. And then when they sit across from me, wondering why nothing is shifting, not understanding that the spell that they've been living under, it isn't medical, it's linguistic because a
Hmm.
label and a belief was slapped on them. And it may be true, right? They may have that diagnosis. However, they're not that identity. So, like, what belief might you be living inside of that was never actually yours? And I think it really helped. I don't know. For me, it's really stepping back and saying, what belief have I held since I was a child or a young adult or middle age? Is it still serving me? Yeah, it is. I still believe that.
Hmm.
Huh. I don't know anymore. Does it make sense? Maybe. Or absolutely not. That belief, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't believe that anymore. I believe this instead. So I think flipping back, it's not bad to have a belief. However, it is to look at it and examine what exactly is the value of holding that perspective.
Yes. It's a great reframe for that word. And it's an well, hopefully ever evolving understanding, right? It's this whole reframe. And like the difference is, I guess perhaps it's that ownership, like you were saying with the diagnoses, right? So we all like you twist your ankle and you go get an x-ray and guess what? You get a diagnosis for that, right? Doesn't mean that you become this, sprained ankle. That's not
Right?
but for someone with multiple diagnoses that actually affects them mentally, emotionally, physically, it's easier. I can see how easy it is to take that on as that's part of me now. I own that diagnosis. And that's another, moving into another word or idea about words is this ownership of let's stick with diagnosis because that's what we're on. And that makes us this a solid example. I personally have been in a phase of my life where I saw myself as a victim to all of the circumstances. I want to make it very clear that I lived a blessed life. I am so grateful. There is this not like I have struggled in many ways, but in this moment, like I am grateful all the time. And in those darker days, also with allergies, funny enough, I gluten and dairy, and then it turned into histamine. And then there was depression and anxiety and all of these different diagnoses. If we are talking about it in the holistic lens, they are literally all connected. But in my time when I was going through this discovery process, it was just always, oh, my depression, it's really, really difficult. And like, oh, my anxiety is so high, or I have to make sure that I control everything so that my anxiety doesn't go crazy. And that's incredible spell that we put on ourselves. It gives us, we are always, as human beings, we are tribal. We want to be part of a group. We want to be, we are, whatever, I already said it. We like to be part of a group. So when you get classified by a diagnosis, as an example, you become part of this group. And then that gives you that feeling of being part of a group because it's a spell. You don't actually recognize the damage that it is doing because your body is listening to you all the time. And when you say, my anxiety is so bad, my depression, my eating, whatever, and you're using the possessive my, and your
And
body's like, that's mine. It belongs to me and I'm going to keep it. And that's what's going to happen.
And I think one of the simplest sort of reframes is to
Hmm.
change it, right? To flip that instead of my, oh, I experience
Hmm.
anxiety and this is what it looks like. It's not my anxiety. It's an experience right now. And even changing it from my to say, oh, this is an experience, that word spell changes. Oh, yeah, it's an experience.
And simpler than that, my can be changed to the, because the
Absolutely.
is a noun. That's the beginning of most nouns, right? So the anxiety that I experience in this moment is uncomfortable. Yes.
Absolutely. You know, the other thing I often think about, like, and thank you for bringing up the whole like this my and like identifying with it, is some of the everyday language that we use, which is the oh, I have to go do
Mm,
this. I have to go go
big one. Yes, that's a big one. I have to. That actually has its own, it is putting pressure upon us in order for us to be doing the things that we think we need to be doing. I have to go pick up my kid. I have to do the laundry. I have to exercise.
And I think the moment that you say, I have to do this, you remove yourself from your own life. You become that
Yes.
passenger, right? It's like all of a sudden the control is going because I have to. So I think, shifting it from I have to, I get to do the laundry. And
Mhm. I choose to,
I
right?
choose to do it, right? It
Mhm.
empowers you. I get to
Yes.
do this, but I love, like, I choose to do this. I
Mhm.
choose to pick up my kids. I choose to clean my
Mm.
house as
Yes.
opposed to going back to the have to, because notice in your body how that feels. Like, do you
Mm.
feel heavier? It's an obligation. And
I
when we
have to.
step back and begin to look at it that this is a choice, it
Mhm.
actually creates more breath, whew, and a little bit more ease because we still need to do those everyday tasks, right? We're
Mhm.
not getting out of here, not cleaning the house or eating or grooming ourselves or whatever, right? I mean, we could, but it probably wouldn't be so pretty. So think about, how do you change that? I get
Mhm.
to, I get to do this. I get to do
Mhm.
that. Oh,
Mhm.
wow. So when was the last time you said, I have to, about something that you can actually choose?
Personally, yeah, because I've always been fascinated with languages. I am bilingual and I can speak basic of two other languages. Like I feel that maybe that's the reason that the words really stuck to me quicker when I recognized my internal dialogue, right? How I spoke to myself. That was something that I noticed naturally without researching or anything like that. It's the have to. I wanted to be the best housewife of all time. I wanted to be on top of everything because, that's what they say. Like you see these pictures or these shows or whatever the case, and everybody's got their stuff together. So I was excited and I was choosing to. And at some point, probably, I don't know, 3 to 5 years into my marriage, I recognized how much weight that was. And it turned from not even recognizing, more like, oh, I have to do the laundry again. Like it never stops. And, and this have to. So what I recognized between in when if anybody wants to try this experiment with themselves in their internal dialogue is recognizing which things are a must and which things are a choice. And then to be able to say with change those words, because it's always just I have to. So you can say, I choose to, I want to, I get to, or you can say, I need to. Like, I need to pick my kid up, right? Otherwise, they're going to call me. So we know that that's a need. And then that way we know it helps our brain to recognize the difference between them. And I felt like that was a powerful shift for me as well.
And
What
I think,
other,
I was going to
mhm,
say, I think the other thing you just talked about was the internal dialogue as well. We
mhm,
also need to just be mindful of what is that internal dialogue. Because while we may speak words, right,
mhm.
and they can become that spell, the internal dialogue is equally as powerful. And you just alluded to that. The other one that
Absolutely.
also gets me is I'm trying.
Mm,
And I always think about this example. If I give you this ink pen, try to take it from me. Try. I can't
I am
try.
trying.
I either
I am
do it
trying.
or I don't. There's no
Right.
trying. And
Mhm.
so I hear it a lot in the treatment room. I'm trying to heal.
Mhm.
And, the moment that you're trying, I feel like you've already left the door open for failure because, again, I can't,
Mhm.
you either do it or you don't.
Mhm.
So I always want to ask, what would it sound like if you just drop the word trying completely from your whole lexicon, your whole vocabulary, and using the example of I'm trying to heal, instead say I'm healing.
Mhm.
Notice the difference. I am healing.
Mhm.
Yes. That's
Mhm.
embodiment. That's owning it. Yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but like if I say that, like I feel it in my body and I feel strong and I feel powerful. When I say, oh, I'm trying to heal, like my body,
Mhm.
right?
You
So
shrink
notice
down,
the
like, you
difference.
go
Hear the
this
difference
way.
between the two statements. The body hears the change, it feels the change, and it responds to that different. This isn't
Mhm.
like I always say, it's not about it's not motivational language. So
Mhm.
don't confuse what we're saying here that it's motivational because that's the furthest thing from the truth, if you will. But the emotional body is going to take cues from the words that you give to it. So, what words are you feeding yourself? Just like you're mindful of, oh, am I drinking enough water? Am I eating the right foods? Words are your food. Words are feeding you as well. So, make sure the words you're speaking aloud as you're describing something are equally as nourishing to you.
That's beautiful. It's a great point. And in that same vein of I have to, I'm trying is another big one. I think it's my most least favorite word, should. I
Mm.
should. You should. As a mom, I can tell you, girl, we run it down to the ground. Am I right? And again, at least 20 years ago was this recognition of, dang, why should I do that though? Why should I? And I had this good conversation with this guy that also he had randomly naturally brought it up. Of course, there's no random. I'm sure it was synchronistic in that way because I was already considering these things. And he's like, nothing good happens when you should do something. You have like irritation, frustration, perhaps even regret. There's so many different emotions, talking about the emotional body that goes through that when we say, oh, I should call my mom back, versus
Mm.
what I found to be the most helpful as far as a this or that. I just changed one. I took the sh off and I put a c on that word. So I could call my mom right now. Oh my gosh, I would love to call my mom, and then it becomes this. I could go, work out. Yeah, I could, but I don't know if the energy's there for that. All right, well, that's fine. There's so much less. There's like a huge reduction of guilt and shame because you feel guilty if you haven't done it and you should do it. There's shame because, oh, I didn't do it. And like bringing you back to the test you should have studied for in school, like all the different things. So I've worked a long time on on removing the word should from my vocabulary. It certainly still pops up because we are in this current paradigm and we are with this language. But with other languages that I have learned, they're different. Should doesn't even exist. They use a different word to describe that somewhat required thing that must happen, right? It's more of a, yeah, I could do that, or I must do that, or I need to do that. All of those things, those put it in different categories of this actually does need to get done, or, eh, yeah, all right, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I could. I know,
Well,
you know
I
what I'm going to
often
do.
think that like
Yeah.
should, anytime I have the word should come up in my vocabulary, it's not like from my own internal dialogue. It
Mhm.
sounds like to me it's from something that my parents told me. Oh, Stephanie, you should pick up your room. Stephanie, you should sit like a proper lady. Oh, Stephanie, you should stand with your shoulders back. I mean, those are all good things, right?
Mhm.
However, on the other hand, there are other things that I feel like our parents or culture, there you should do this instead, right? Like that's not what you're supposed to do. So you should do that. And I don't know, I think it just always rubs me the wrong way and leaves me feeling like you said earlier so incredibly shameful. And I find, for me, interestingly, I know you said like you would change it to the word I need or I must. And I don't like for me, the word I must also like there's like I'm like, oh, I
Mhm.
must do that. So I I typically switch it to I choose. So just like the example you gave about calling your mom, mine's like visiting my dad. Oh, I should go visit him. And I'm like, okay, do I want to visit him? Yeah, I miss him. Oh. Oh, so I'm choosing to go visit him. It's not no longer I should visit him. It's, do I want to? Yes, I want to. Yeah, that actually would make me really happy. I love spending time with him. However, if I say, oh, I should go visit him, then it feels like an obligation. And I'm like, "Ugh," and I don't want to do
Yeah.
that. And again, I think it's reframing in a way that helps to lift us up. Again, it's not motivational, but just notice the nuances when you say, I should, I must, I'm obligated to say this, right? We don't usually say the word obligated. We usually say the word should, right? And switch it. I choose. I want. This is what I want. Yeah, this makes me feel good. And that's how you know that whatever conversation or request or expectation you have, that's how you know that you can own it yourself and no longer it's sort of outside of yourself. And I kind of think sometimes should statements can feel a little bit outside and judgmental of ourselves. And when we flip it to I want and choose, I don't know, it just feels easier in my body.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that you said, it's an obligation because that word carries this obligatory energy, right? The frequency. It's obligatory. What if I don't want to do it, but I should do it, but I don't want to do it? It's this resistance. I mean, obligation without motivation becomes resistance. You're gonna push against it.
I
Yeah.
think the other one that comes out for me is also the word just. We don't have to talk about it a long time, but I think like, oh, I'm just a mom. I'm just I don't know, a stay-at-home mom. I'm just a acupuncturist. It's like apologizing before you even speak, right? And it just shrinks you. It makes you smaller before. With that said, I noticed that I use the word just. Oh, it was just a lovely evening last night or something. Like I'll use it in my written word. I'm like, why am I putting just in there? Like, why am I qualifying it? It's minimizing that whole impact of that writing and then thinking, well, it just happened this way. It
Mhm.
minimizes it. And so the reframe is, where did I first learn to minimize myself? We don't have to answer that today, but like think about it and just think about the word and like who taught you to just be,
Be.
right?
Mhm.
And I think, you brought up something the other day when we were talking. I think I said, "Oh, I'm sorry." And you're like, "Why are you saying sorry, girl?"
No, let me just go into that word because in general, so it's a two-part story, but I did bring up that being bilingual, I'm bilingual in German, which first of all has never ever been on a list of things I ever thought I would do in my life. But here I am. Ich kann gut Deutsch. And again, with that, when you're doing constant translation of how do I say this from my language to the new one, you recognize that the weight isn't there anymore, that heaviness of it. But sorry is that's a tough one, and specifically for women. And also, is not we are not just not only women. There are lots of men that have this as well. But most recently, since we're bringing antidotes in, it's that my son, who is 12 years old, Mr. Middle Schooler, he's coming into his own, and he's really developing himself as a person, and it's so wonderful to watch and all the things. And he will walk in to the room and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And I was like, "Hold on, what are you sorry for? What did you do? You legit just walked in the room." Oh, oh, sorry, I don't know. I mean, not sorry, but I'm sorry. And it's like a glitch in his system because somehow he's currently, as we are learning in this age group, like mental development, you are coming across so many different types of people in school. You're coming with, you're learning your teachers and all the things. And I know him as a person. He's just trying to he's like a peacekeeper, protector. He likes everybody to have a good time. And so maybe that's why he's apologizing. And I just said, I'm your mother. I made you in my body, and I need you to never, ever apologize for existing. Because saying I'm sorry when you didn't do anything, it was almost, he had to stop and he paused as well because he's like, I guess that's, yeah. I'm like, no pressure. Just watch yourself. Just watch what you say. And not because, like, back in our day, you better watch what you say. It's not that. It is watch what you say. Pay attention to the words that come out
And
because,
I think
yeah,
it goes
the
to
power.
what you're speaking to is when he came in, it's like this fear of taking up space. And if I say
Mhm.
sorry, I'm taking up less space.
Mhm.
And it's expressing, maybe to dispel any discomfort, like, "Oh, I'm sorry that I exist," right? And I see it so many times with women in particular. And yes, it happens for men. However, women have this way of saying, "I'm sorry to interrupt. Sorry, can I just ask? I'm sorry, can we please do this?" I just hear it constantly asking for permission, but I see our male counterparts, they just speak up. So ask the question. And I think it's something so often that we've been conditioned to shrink and to keep ourselves in smaller and in order to keep other people feeling comfortable. So if we
Mm.
say the apology before the thought, before we even breathe, before we even take up any space, then it's okay. It's okay, right?
Yeah.
And I've started questioning women, what are you sorry for? You're perfectly 100% allowed to be in this space. Oh, sorry. No, take up your space.
Yeah.
And then they're good. And then the other one is fine. How are you? I'm fine. And
Mm.
fine has become a complete sentence. But it's not like, but it doesn't mean anything. It's a meaningless word. So one of the
Mhm.
things that I've started doing to flip the switch is when people say, "How are you?" I'll often say, "Phenomenal." Even when I don't feel phenomenal, because when you use that word phenomenal, people, they stop in their track. They're like, "Wait a minute. No one says they're phenomenal. Why are you phenomenal?" And even on my worst days, then I'm like, yeah, why do I feel phenomenal? Well, I got up today. It's beautiful outside. Huh, I'm having this interaction. I'm able to then like be reflective and truly come and have this genuine connection. But if we keep answering fine, it's just a polite bypass, right? It doesn't create the connection that I think that we're saying. So I guess one of the things that we would like to prompt you with and encourage you is, what do you actually mean when you say fine? When you say sorry? What does that mean? What are you trying to convey? And then how might you flip that in the future to allow yourself to take up space? Instead of saying fine, what's another word that's bigger, more expansive that you can live in?
I want to say, because I also like throwing people curveballs when they ask the question. I mean, it depends on the day, obviously, but a good one that I very much enjoy when somebody asks me, go on and ask me, go on, ask me.
How are you?
Learning and growing each day.
I love it. That's wonderful.
Now, that depends obviously on the day, the situation, but for the most part, people are a little bit, yeah, that's a curveball. And also, hey, you know what? Me too. Yeah, I hope so, because you're alive. Like we stop learning and growing when we're dead. You know, it's like so.
Well, as you can see, we can talk a lot about a lot of words. We haven't even scratched the surface today. Hopefully, this has gotten you thinking and just, I never thought about words as spells. I never thought about it that way. And it is opening up your mind to look at the meaning sometimes behind your words. How do they land? What's the intention behind them? How shifting one word can shift the whole intentionality of that. Often
And
I'll say,
energy.
but
Mhm,
instead of saying and when we say but, it erases everything, right?
mhm.
So think
Agree.
about other words that you might use and jot them down. Think about them.
And also to add to that, yes, like we're going to talk about some fun stuff. Definitely come check us out for sure. But the thing about about your invitation, Stephanie, it's like one thing to add to that is it can be daunting and or scary to go look in that closet that you never clean. And so it's more so a if you can approach your because I feel like our internal dialogue we don't spend a lot of time on. So that could be technically a closet you don't want to go into. But to look at it, to open the door if you feel called with loving curiosity, because this is very important, because it isn't a judgment zone. This isn't like, oh my God, I use so many awful things. God, no wonder I'm so awful. It's like, we don't want to hear that. And your body doesn't either. It's like, wow, isn't that curious? I really changed the way I speak about needing or, putting some negative energy behind with a simple switch of I'm curious about, I'm interested in. Oh, that's curious. If you don't agree with somebody, I'm just going a tiny bit off track. If you don't agree with somebody or you don't understand somebody, you can say, oh, wow, that's interesting. Tell me more, right? I'm curious about that. Tell me more. So we are asking you if you feel called to accept our invitation with loving curiosity.
And I think the most important part of this whole episode is awareness, shedding
Mhm.
light on the things and areas of our lives that we don't think about. Because who thinks about this other than me and Jessica? And once we have an awareness, that's how we grow and that's how we evolve. And the most important thing to remember is that the most potent spells almost always came from home. They weren't from strangers, they came from the people we loved. And the phrases that were passed down, like truth about who we are, what we're capable of, what's realistic, what we deserve, it was all said with love. And it was said without thinking. And so often they just stopped sounding like opinions and started sounding like facts. And that's when they become our operating systems. So now we all have this linguistic operating system that can change. Because remember, how many updates do we get on those iPhones? How often
Girl,
do
that's
we get
just
the
what I was
update?
about to say. Think about
Right?
technology. We're always updating
Right.
our
So
OS.
update this operating system.
It's time to update the OS, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go.
Yeah. So we're going to go much deeper in our next episode, which is called The Stories We Inherited. That's going to, pull out a little bit more and go in a little bit more depth in a totally different way than we did today, because unpacking that family language is its own conversation. So for now, just sit with us. What is one phrase from your
You
childhood
got a
home?
journal.
Oh, yes,
Just a
get your
second.
journal.
You have a
Sorry, I forgot.
journal.
Grab your journal.
Okay. We got our journals.
Okay, got some
So
journals. Okay, I'm going to
we're going to write down our
repeat it.
reflection question
So this is
for
our
us for the week.
reflection question for the week.
Yay.
What is one phrase from your childhood home that you're still living inside, that you feel is true, even if no one has said it in years? So what's that one phrase that still lingers in your life? And it still feels really true to you, but no one said it to you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good thought experiment. If you are a thinker like me, you like mind puzzles, don't give me a puzzle, a real puzzle, or one of those, wooden things you have to unfigure out. That I can't do. But within my brain, I certainly can. And I can't wait for our next session.
So this week, just notice where
That's it.
you catch yourself saying, I should, I just, even maybe I'm busy, I'm fine.
I can't.
Pause. Just pause for a breath.
Ooh.
You don't have to
Mhm.
change anything yet, okay? Just notice,
Ah,
because the awareness starts with noticing first. And whose voice is it? Is it your voice? Is it someone else's voice that you keep hearing? So just noticing is the beginning, and that's our starting point.
And I just want to add, I would love to invite anybody that's watching, listening to comment on it. And maybe there are other words that we didn't bring up, that's something that maybe I don't even have awareness of. We would love to know that. Something that you recognize that, oh, this word, blah, 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 blah. Or I noticed I've been saying a lot of this or this and that. We'd love to hear some feedback, because that's how we're learning and growing each day.
Exactly. So please drop those comments down below.
And if
And
you
if
like this,
today's conversation stirred something in you, uh, look for our next episode, which will drop here shortly. And just know in the links below, there are some show notes. Please hit that subscribe button so we can grow. And there are also links below to book a session with us if you would like to. So until next time,
stay open,
stay
stay
curious.
And
Keep listening to the wisdom within you.
have a great time.
So this was Soul Talk with Dr. Stephanie and Jessica.
And Jessica.
Until next time, have a wonderful week. We love you.
Take care. Thanks for watching.